Will the Orioles be able to go through the season without being completely unwatchable? If you ask me, I think this team is a bit underrated, but we'll get to that when we get through the entire thing. In terms of their additions, Richie Martin was a Rule 5 draft pick from Oakland. Hanser Alberto was a waiver claim from the Yankees. Drew Jackson was acquired via trade, but he was a Rule 5 draft pick. And then Nate Karns was signed to a 1-year $800K contract. In terms of their subtractions, Caleb Joseph went to Arizona, just let him go after a bad season offensively, I guess. And Tim Beckham went to Seattle, also a guy that sort of regressed in a way. And then Adam Jones and Colby Rasmus were just not brought back for the purpose of not paying a big amount of money to, or at least in the case of Adam Jones, not paying a big amount of money since they already have a lot locked up into Chris Davis and into some of their pitchers that are not good. And otherwise, they didn't bring back any unrestricted free agents. When it comes to the lineup, there are a couple of players that I think could be sneaky good this year. Trey Mancini, one of them, I think he could have an excellent year. And Renato Nunez, I think he could be sneaky good as well with his power and how well he played when he went to Baltimore. So I think he could be sneaky good, and DJ Stewart could be solid as well. But then for the rest, I mean, Jonathan VR had one good full season and hasn't been as good since. And as a whole, they're really built around gloves and some guys that are speed, like Mullins and VR. And then there are guys that are useless, like Chris Davis. Mark Trumbo is a DH for a reason. Could hit maybe 20 home runs, but has some pieces, but a bit unimpressive. They're thrusting Richie Martin into the fire, so could be a disaster for them. As a whole, I give their lineup a grade of a C-. When it comes to their bench, Austin Wynns is a backup catcher that should be okay. Have a couple of extra fielders, infielder with Alberto and outfielder with Rickard. And Drew Jackson, Rule 5 pick, as I mentioned before, but acquired via trade. And then with their minor leaguers, both of their catchers, Carlos Perez and Jesus Sucre, have shown awful showcases at the plate. Ruiz hasn't looked very good in the bigs, and Austin Hayes and Anthony Santander are just extra outfielders. Santander's worse than Hayes, though. So as a whole, I give their grade for their depth a D. No need to waste too much time with this rotation. Not good. The Orioles don't know how to develop pitching. I mean, I thought Dylan Bundy could probably become something, but wasting pitchers is the MO of the Orioles. They added to it with Nate Karns, who may have had a flash in the pen, but he could also maybe turn around. Then again, you're relying on the Orioles to help him out, so give their rotation a grade of a D-. With their pitching depth, I don't have high hopes for Josh Rogers or John Means. Hunter Harvey probably won't be ready until 2020, and Luis Ortiz could be a good pitcher if he continues to develop, but then again, this is Baltimore, so give their depth a grade of an F, their pitching depth rather. When it comes to the bullpen, they are pretty top-heavy. Richard Blyer has been excellent the past few seasons, and Michael Givens, he underperformed his FIP last year. He could have a bit of a turnaround season, and Paul Fry could be okay for them. So, solid top 3. In terms of the rest of the bullpen, either guys that had underperforming seasons or guys that are just not good. So their bullpen gets a grade of a C- because it's very top-heavy. In terms of their depth, Evan Phillips and Pedro Araujo have not looked good. Don't have high hopes for Donnie Hart. And Brendan Klein could be good, but I'm a bit skeptical. Then again, I mean, it's really based on if you can have more than one good season in Baltimore, because pitchers that have performed in Baltimore haven't had more than one good season, or, at least 2 consecutive good seasons very often. So, give their bullpen depth a grade of a D-. And then with their coaching staff, Brendan Hyde is a manager who had one good season in the minors, and he's also a Joe Madden product. I think he could be pretty good, but then again, don't have too much of a read on him, so give him a grade of a C for right now. When it comes to the hitting coach, he comes over from Cincinnati and led an excellent hitting core, so I give him a grade of an A-, because Don Long, I think, is going to do some good things for that Baltimore lineup. With their pitching coach, he comes over from Texas, and it looks like they've learned their lesson of not being able to develop pitching by bringing in another pitching coach that didn't do very well. I know it was in an offensive ballpark mostly, but still, the pitching core did not look good, so D+ for Don Brockhale. And their bullpen coach, he's been pretty subpar. John Waston gets a C- for me. So as a whole, bit of an unimpressive roster, but semi-promising coaching staff, so could maybe be a watchable team, maybe. And now with the schedule, starting in the AL East, we have the Orioles facing against every division opponent 19 times, like every team. Face Boston and New York 9 times at home, 10 times on the road. Tampa Bay and Toronto, it is 10 times at home, 9 times on the road. Gonna be tough because their division is pretty tough. At least with Boston, New York, and Tampa Bay. I think Toronto could be decent, so that could be a challenge for them as well. And with the rest of the AL, they face the White Sox 3 times at home, 3 times on the road. Same goes for the Royals, Twins, Astros, 3 times at home, 4 times on the road. Cleveland, Detroit, the Angels, and the Mariners. And then Oakland and Texas, they face 4 times at home and 3 times on the road. And so facing the rest of the AL isn't as much of a challenge as facing off against the NL or in their own division. So that's where they should look to do their damage against teams like Detroit, Chicago, and Kansas City, as well as Texas and Seattle. And then with interleague play, they face Washington 4 times, as always, 2 times at home, 2 times on the road. Same goes for San Diego, except it's not an always thing. 2 times at home, 2 times on the road. And then they face Arizona and Colorado for a 3-game set in both of their ballparks. And then they host the Dodgers and Giants 3 times at home. So interleague, they get a bit of a treat, facing off against the NL West instead of a division like the NL Central or the NL East, because both of those divisions are going to be tough. So look to do their damage there as well. And now it's time for Where All Hopes Die. Record predictions. For Bleacher Reports, they have the Orioles going 57-105. Bit low for me. RotoChamp 63-99. Fangraphs 1 win below that, 62-100. Pacoda 59-103. The over-under is 59 for this team. I'm going slightly over at 62-100, as I think that the hitting core can take some strides with their new hitting coach. I think that Don Long gives them more potential in that area, and that they have some sneaky good hitters, so I think they can be a little bit better than what people are giving them credit. But at the end of the day, even though I'm fond of portions of this coaching staff, you can't make something out of nothing for the most part. So they'll do some good things, but it won't be too much to swing the tides and turn this team into one that will be okay. But otherwise, that'll do it for this video. As always, I'll have my Twitter, my personal at the top, my YouTube at the bottom, and otherwise I'm looking forward to this video aging poorly in a couple of months.